If you're going on a cruise to Alaska, there's a good chance you're going to be stopping in Ketchikan. And when you do, there's some little known but amazing things that I don't want you to miss. Stick around until the end and I'll show you something that is so weird it belongs in a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. I'm Jeff, and this is Backroads Tourist. Ketchikan is often called Alaska's first city, and that's not necessarily because it was the first actual city, but because when you're traveling from the lower 48, it's the first Alaskan city that you get to. And this little city of right around 8,000 people, give or take, has a wild and crazy history. And if you look hard enough, you can find remnants of that strangeness on your next visit. Let's start with a piece of Ketchikan history that isn't so well hidden. In fact, it's pretty well known. When you take a stroll down Creek Street, you're going to notice lots of cute little shops and colorful buildings. Well, these weren't always boutique shops. Many of these buildings were houses of ill repute. Back from the late 1800s until well into the 1900s, there were as many as 30 of these establishments in this area. Dolly's House Museum offers tours that you may find interesting, but the dad part of me says that this may not be appropriate for kids. However, the rest of Creek Street is pretty family friendly. We were there in August, and the salmon were spawning up the river, and we even saw a harbor seal who was swimming around just a few feet away. So Creek Street was the red light district of Ketchikan, and the clientele was made up primarily of loggers, miners, and fishermen. No respectable man, and certainly no married man, would dare to be seen walking toward Creek Street. That's why I want to show you this sign. Married Man's Trail. That's right, back in the old days, this was an alternate, less obvious way to get to the red light district for those who wanted to protect their reputation and marriage. So far, those of you who are seasoned Alaskan cruisers are probably saying, yeah, I knew all about that, but let me issue you a challenge. If you don't know about this next story, you have to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the Backroads Tourist channel. Deal? Deal. As you've walked around downtown Ketchikan, you may or may not have noticed this street sign for Betty King Alley. Let's take a walk down this block-long alley and let me tell you about Betty King. Betty came to Ketchikan in the late 1920s or early 1930s, and she spent some time working as, shall we say, a sporting woman on Creek Street. Remember Dolly's house? Well, Dolly Arthur, who owned it, and Betty hated one another. Why? Well, the story is that Dolly had the audacity to claim that her dog was better than Betty's dog. Well, those were fighting words. Both women loved dogs, and when Betty retired from the world's oldest profession, she started collecting stray dogs from all around Ketchikan. In fact, she became known as Betty King the Dog Lady and started what could be called the first animal shelter in Ketchikan. She shared her small two-story house with dozens of dogs, and the community embraced her. Local businesses gave her food and other supplies for her and her dogs, and when her house was damaged in a fire one winter, several Ketchikan businessmen rebuilt it for her. In the 1960s, Betty, who was getting up there in age, wound up in the hospital. And as fate would have it, she shared a room with her arch nemesis, Dolly Arthur. After a while, the two women buried the hatchet and became friends due to their mutual love of dogs. Betty King died in her little house in 1970 at the age of 84. When officials came to take Betty away, they were met by a dozen or more dogs who were still fiercely guarding Betty. One by one, the dogs had to be restrained before Betty could be removed. To honor Betty for her decades of civil service in caring for stray dogs, this little alley was named after her a few years after her death. So are you clicking those like and subscribe buttons yet? Hey, remember, that was the deal. Ketchikan is also home to the world's largest collection of totem poles. According to Smithsonian Magazine, there's over 80 standing totem poles in and around Ketchikan, and new ones are being carved every year. You'll find totem poles in the museum, heritage center, and all over town. In fact, in Whale Park, you'll see this totem pole that is pictured on one of the pages of a U.S. passport. And rumor has it that if you want some luck, you need to just rub the belly of the bear on this totem pole. But you don't have to go searching too far for quirkiness in Ketchikan. Sometimes it's right in front of you, like this baby mammoth created out of spark plugs. At Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in San Francisco, they have a mammoth made of shredded tires, and I think this would be a great companion piece, don't you? Or how about this intimidating scrap iron grizzly bear? And to be honest, I was very tempted to bring this little albino skunk home with me. Did you learn something new about the little town of Ketchikan, Alaska? Do you know any other offbeat things in and around Ketchikan? Let me know about it in the comments section below. And if you found this video interesting or entertaining, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the Backroads Tourist channel. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jeff, and I'll see you on the Backroads or on a future cruise.